If you enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe, like, and share so we can find others like yourself. Welcome to the Bitcoin Basics podcast with your hosts, Faris and Gordon from CoinCompass.com, enabling you to safely buy and securely store your Bitcoins. All resources are in the show notes and description, including our disclaimer. Visit BitcoinBasicsPodcast.com to subscribe and discover other free content.
For anyone listening, this episode is visually intensive, so visit our YouTube channel, coincompass.com/YouTube, to follow along.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us again today. I'm Faris, and I'm here with Gordon. Gordon, how you doing?
I'm good, thanks, Faris. Let's get into it. What are we doing today?
So we're straying from one of our normal podcasts. What we're actually doing today is we're doing a review of buying Bitcoin on two separate exchanges. So we're going to be looking at the 7 different factors that we consider important if you're buying Bitcoin. So this would be relevant for anyone buying their first Bitcoins who's never done it and you're a bit unsure of what the process is, or even if traders, if you're looking at buying Bitcoin and other cryptos and you want to get in and out. So we'll look at 7 different categories here. And we come at it from different perspectives. Gordon really looks at the security aspect. I'm looking at the convenience of it. The 2 exchanges that we're looking at, I looked at Coinbase and Gordon looked at Binance. And the reason we selected those 2 is because they're 2 of the larger exchanges in terms of volume and liquidity. So unless you got something else to say, Gordon, I think we get straight into it.
Let's do it.
So category number 1 is user experience and interface. So Gordon, how did you find Binance with regards to this?
Okay, so Faris, in terms of Binance, I actually think that the user face is a little bit too busy. So if you look across the top here, you've got a lot of things to deal with. And that's because Binance, one of its greatest strengths is it offers a lot of facilities, but one of its weaknesses is for people who just want to buy crypto, it can be a little bit confusing because even the buy crypto option here, it's like, okay, well, bank deposit and credit card and whatnot, but what are all these other things? Third-party payment, P2P. It's a little bit overwhelming, to be honest. So if you just want to buy Bitcoin and you can change the different currencies, say with your bank account, it's not as straightforward as perhaps what you'll hear with Coinbase. Even a simple thing like depositing with a bank account, there's so many options here. And so I would say the interface isn't exactly user-friendly. It is fairly clean. Like, I don't know how, they could have done it differently. But I would say for beginners, it may be a little bit overwhelming. How about Coinbase?
Yeah, Gordon, Coinbase is actually quite different to Binance. Coinbase is a very simple user interface. You can see here that there's basically 3 buttons at the top. The only small criticism I'll have is this one here, trade. So that's actually where you go to buy Bitcoins. You'll click on that. For some people, that might be confusing and they're thinking, I want to buy my Bitcoins, not trade them. Send and receive is if you already have Bitcoins you wish to send to Coinbase or receive from. But this button here, trade, is where you go to buy or sell your Bitcoins. And it is quite simple to use. It's a very, very simple interface. It's not designed for people that will be trading different cryptocurrencies. But the user interface here is actually really easy to use. So as far as depositing into Coinbase, it is very simple as well. You'd have to use a credit card. There are fees incurred, which we'll look at later. The only hindrance with Coinbase is you don't have as many options for getting your money in. With international wire transfers, they only work in US, Europe, and Canada. If you're anywhere else in the rest of the world, you can only deposit funds via a credit card. So that is, that's a hindrance to using Coinbase is just the fees involved in credit card. And if you don't have a credit card, you want to use a wire transfer, you can't with Coinbase. Gordon, how did you find Binance as far as getting fiat currency into it?
For Binance, there are actually quite a few ways to deposit money. the usual ones, which most exchanges have, like credit card and bank transfer and whatnot. But there are actually some other ways, and some other ways that I've tried myself as well, like P2P, which means find another person to buy and sell crypto with Bitcoin, third-party payments and all other kinds of things. The deposit process is pretty straightforward, but again, Binance has a lot of options here. What do you want to deposit? Fiat, crypto? That can be a little bit overwhelming. But the process itself is pretty straightforward if you just want to do with a credit card or your bank account. And Binance does actually have quite a lot of national currencies, what we call fiat. So they have something like about 20 different national currencies. So you don't have to use your national currency to convert it to US dollars or euros and then to Binance, which obviously they take a cut with fees. So that is a huge advantage of Binance, that they've got so many ways to deposit your money and also so many different methods of payment in order to do that.
So Gordon, our next category is ease of withdrawal. How did you find Binance as far as removing your Bitcoins from Binance?
So once you find out which particular page to get to withdraw your funds, it's actually straightforward. But again, with Binance, there's a lot of options. You got to find out, well, how do I actually get to my wallet? And there are different wallets, they're in different accounts. And that, I guess, again, that's one of the strengths of Binance, that it offers trading and other kinds of facilities. But for beginners, you're just dealing with a normal exchange wallet. So for example, if you wanted to withdraw Bitcoin or whatever it was, you just click the Bitcoin or whatever the crypto was, and you click on withdraw, put in the amount. Say, for example, I want to withdraw Bitcoin at this amount and pretty much go through it. So I would assume that most exchanges are the same. I mean, it's just a field with your Bitcoin address, what you actually want to use. But again, with Binance, there are some advanced options. For example, I put in my Bitcoin address here, but it says transfer network. I mean, what is that? I don't understand these two. Put in the amount and then go for it. So again, not exactly newbie friendly. So I wouldn't perhaps recommend this to total beginners, but people who have bought Bitcoin before, or at least know perhaps a little bit of the inner workings of Bitcoin, Binance definitely offers those advantages, but not for beginners, unlike perhaps Coinbase, Faris.
Yeah, Coinbase, I'd say, is a very different experience. I would say Coinbase is designed for noobs, people buying their Bitcoins for the first time. And if you look here, you'll see that, again, it is very simple with Coinbase. You've just got these nice, big, bold buttons here where it's send and receive. So send, meaning you're sending your Bitcoin somewhere. So ease of withdrawal. You just basically put in who you're sending it to and a message if you want to. So when it says address, just set the Bitcoin address and one click. So nice and easy, very, very simple to use Coinbase. Gordon, our next category is the fees involved. What's Binance like for fees?
Yeah, so far I've actually been quite negative on Binance, not being newbie friendly. But going forward, this is where Binance actually shines and huge advantage. So as far as I'm aware, Binance actually offers the lowest rate in terms of fees. And to deposit money into most exchanges, you don't get fees. But when you withdraw, that's really when you care about the rate of fees. So Binance has one of the lowest, if not the lowest, amount of fees of any exchange. So if money and that is something that you are concerned with, especially with large amounts, then Binance definitely wins in that scenario. Coinbase. Are there any fees in Coinbase?
Yeah. So there's obviously the usual fees when you're sending your Bitcoins. There's the minor fees involved in that transaction, which is across all Bitcoins. And they're very small fees when you compare them to what we do with credit cards and other banking. The main fee that you're getting hit with in Coinbase is the deposit fee. So if you can't do the wire transfer and you can only use Visa, that's a 4% fee every time. And that is quite large to basically you're losing 4% of what you could be buying in Bitcoin. So that's a pretty big drawback in Coinbase, is you can only use Visa in a lot of countries and you have to pay a 4% fee. How's Binance with securities? Our next category, Gordon. Hygiene, best practices, and security.
Yeah, so a quick plug to our YouTube series, coincompass.com/YouTube. And we have a playlist of 5 videos which actually go through things like how to set up a secure computer connection, VPN, browser, password manager, 2-factor authentication, and everything in between. If you have no idea what I'm talking about there, have a look at that series, and that goes through security, hygiene, best practices, basically to improve your online security. And that's not just for Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, that's just for everyday banking and using things online, especially nowadays. It's just as important as ever. I would say most exchanges, without being blasé about it, have very good security. Binance has certainly got excellent security, and they keep on reminding you, if you've only set up a username and password, for example, they keep on reminding you like to set up things like 2FA, second factor authentication, and other things as well, like whitelisting Bitcoin addresses and all kinds of other things. So I would say Binance security is as good as it gets. But just a reminder that you can control your own security, so your own computer or phone or however you're doing your Bitcoin, but you cannot control your exchange's security. So the purpose of this video is actually to buy Bitcoin. It's not to buy Bitcoin and leave your Bitcoins on the exchange. It's simply to buy Bitcoin, get them off the exchange, which is a topic for another day, but I just wanted to make that distinction. So how about security at Coinbase?
Thanks, Gordon. Security at Coinbase is actually quite strong as well. In this series that Gordon's talking about, we actually recommend you use a VPN, which I did. And Coinbase actually picked up I was logging in from different IP address. So it wouldn't let me log in without confirming via my email address. So it was a nuisance, but it was an extra security measure that you'd have to appreciate. And Coinbase also uses 2-factor authentication. That is an app that you download on your smartphone, which means if you're logging in via computer, you need to access your smartphone as well. This is something we also explain in those YouTube series, if you know what we're talking about. But no, I was impressed with Coinbase's security in that it is easy to use. It can be a little bit time consuming, but that is what you want because it's protecting your Bitcoins. So our next category is privacy. And this is something where Coinbase, you have to go through what's known as KYC AML, which is Know Your Customer and Anti-Money Laundering rules, because Coinbase is basically registered in the US and it is akin to opening a bank account there. They need to prove who you are, prove that you're not a US resident or citizen. And in essence, if you're looking to buy small amounts of Bitcoin, this is a bit of a rigmarole to go through. You have to provide passports, driver's license, hold it up by your face. It takes a picture of you. So it is a lot to go through. If you are someone who is intending on buying Bitcoin regularly and you want to claim it on your tax in the future for capital gains, then it is quite handy to use Coinbase. But if you just want to buy some Bitcoin, even if you don't want to use it privately, just buy small amounts simply, Coinbase is unfortunately not the best place to go. And I know things are pretty different at Binance, Gordon. Can you tell us what it's like there?
Yeah, so buying Bitcoin with Coinbase is basically the same as buying Bitcoin through your local or your national tax office. That's basically the same thing. So, and Coinbase is not just US, it's actually got jurisdictions and offices all around the world. So even if you're buying Coinbase in the UK, buying Bitcoin through Coinbase in the UK, pretty much every single tax office has got their hooks in there. So privacy is a bit of a dirty word these days, but it's not that you've got something to hide. It's not that you're a terrorist. It's just that you want to not show everyone what you're doing. So without going into the politics of it, Binance actually has an enormous jurisdiction advantage in that they're not in the US. So Binance has a sort of a decentralized model, kind of like Bitcoin, whereby they don't have one central office. So they've got offices all around the world and in different jurisdictions that are obviously tax-friendly. And so when you are buying Bitcoin through Binance, not to say that other three-letter agencies or your local tax office couldn't be looking at those records, they probably aren't. So that is a huge advantage with Binance. Not that you're going to do anything wrong, but if you want to protect your financial privacy, then probably best not to use Coinbase and some of the other US-centric exchanges. And also with Binance, the KYC AML requirements that Faris was talking about are actually less at Binance. So you don't need to, sacrifice any versions or give a blood sample. You just have to go through a couple of small steps. And you can also deposit. So for example, if you bought Bitcoin somewhere else, you can deposit Bitcoin at Binance without any KYC whatsoever. So that's another advantage as well.
If you enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe, like, and share so we can find others like yourself.
All right, thanks for that, Gordon. So our very last category for today is customer support. I know you would probably not have a reason to call them, but did you get a chance to try out customer support at Binance?
Yeah, I actually sent them an email once about a whitelisting address. So whitelisting is actually specifying a withdrawal address. And that means that if someone actually hacked your account or got into your account, they wouldn't be able to send Bitcoin to another address because it's not the one that's registered. And I was just having, I won't bore you with the details, but I was having a little bit of an issue with that. And Binance responded within 20 minutes or something like that to an email. And so that's the only experience that I've had with Binance support. So I can't complain. And their FAQs were excellent. They've got really good Twitter support and YouTube videos and whatnot. So I'm sure Coinbase is similar, but I would say the customer support was excellent.
Well, that's good to hear. So with Coinbase, something that I was actually surprised by was they do have an FAQ page that you go through before you get to an online form. So it's not a simple contact us. It's one of those web pages where you go through, have you tried this? Have you tried this? I tend to find those frustrating because sometimes you want to get on to someone. But in this case, their FAQ page, I felt was very well written for people who are new to Bitcoin. And I appreciate it because this is what we do at Coin Compass. We try to educate people about Bitcoin. So I found they targeted key areas and they helped you understand key terms or key steps when it comes to buying Bitcoin and sending and receiving Bitcoin. And then you move on to the online form. So something I was expecting to be frustrated by, I actually was pleasantly impressed by. So yeah, very good FAQ page before you get to the online request form. Well, that goes through our 7 steps as far as comparing Coinbase and Binance. So Gordon, wrapping things up, who would you recommend Binance to?
I'd recommend Binance to someone who wasn't in the US and someone who values their financial privacy quite highly, like myself. And also, a lot of these countries have what is called Fiat deposit on-ramps. So I think Binance has about 20. So if you're not in a country like the US or the UK or Australia, then Binance is definitely the way to go. And they also offer something called P2P exchange, which means basically you can buy Bitcoin on the Binance site from someone else, a registered and verified seller. And that's another huge advantage as well, because if you're not in one of those countries with your national currency, then if you try and buy with Binance or another exchange, you're going to get hit with so many fees and transferring currencies and that kind of stuff. So that's a huge advantage to Binance. I would say Binance is not the most user-friendly for beginners in the world. However, it's not insurmountable. If you watch a 5-minute video or look at Binance's FAQs, it's pretty straightforward to go through that. So to sum up, if you are a person who is super into privacy and not in the US or Australia or the UK or a Western country, I would suggest Binance. And so if you wanted to buy Bitcoin at Binance, coincompass.com/Binance to set up an account.
Yeah, with Coinbase, it's pretty much the opposite experience. So it is designed for newbies to get involved. It is not one for traders. Fees are too high. I don't think there's be as much liquidity with the altcoins, and it is not a trader's platform. It's definitely made to be simple. If you are US based and you're intending on basically declaring your Bitcoins intact on your tax returns, this is where Coinbase comes in very handy. If you're based overseas, if you're going to be actively getting in and out of Bitcoin or just buying it more than a few times, there are many better options than Coinbase. But for someone who's just getting started, especially US based or US citizen, Coinbase does have a lot to offer.
Thanks, Faris. And just to reiterate, even if you're only buying $100, it is kind of important because, who knows what's going to happen with the price of Bitcoin. $100 today could be $10,000 in 5 years' time. Who knows? So you have to think of the future implications of that. And the reality is nowadays, you have to think of the tax implications as well. So we're not trying to encourage tax evasion or anything like that. We're just trying to explain the different jurisdictions. And for some people, that may be actually one of the main things that they differentiate between the two. So thanks again for that, Faris. So if someone wanted to buy Bitcoin with Coinbase, where would they go?
www.coincompass/Coinbase. And Gordon, do you want to explain the reason why we're telling people to go to coincompass.com and not try to find exchanges themselves?
Yeah, so there are so many scams and phishing links, and you can mistype a name and whatnot. So we use an affiliate program, and if you go to coincompass.com/Coinbase, it will take you directly to the Coinbase site, and conversely with coincompass.com/Binance, it will take you to the Binance site, giving us some affiliate love. So thanks for watching and listening. If you are listening to this on our podcast, you may want to go ahead and go to coincompass.com/YouTube to check out our YouTube series. And just a reminder that security hygiene playlist is on YouTube. You can have a look at that. And if you've got any questions, put some questions in your comments of each video and we'll answer them. If you are interested in subscribing, please go to bitcoinbasicspodcast.com, and we would certainly appreciate it if you shared this. If you found it valuable, share it with your friends and family to spread the word of Bitcoin and find other people like yourself.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Gordon.
Thanks for watching or listening. Please visit coincompass.com/free to register to our socials and discover other free content. Subscribing, liking, and following helps this content remain ad-free. Until next time.